My name is Forrest Dunbar, and I'm running for the United States Congress. Well, I'm hoping we can get people out to vote, and not just for me. There's a lot of really important races going on this year. There's State House, State Senate, Governor, U.S. Senator. There's really important ballot initiatives. And as I was telling people who are congregated here, I want millennials to have a bigger voice in politics. And it's not about sort of pushing people out of the way. I mean, a lot of times our interests actually coincide with people who are more elderly, but we still need to make ourselves heard. And right now we vote at abysmal rates, and it's just not acceptable. I mean, we need to have our voice be heard, and we need to get up and get out and get to voting. And so we were trying to hopefully motivate some people to do so.
So what's the importance of this election compared to past elections concerning the millennial generation?
I have a friend named Jonathan Christ Tompkins, who's a state house rep in Sitka, and he was making the argument to me this is the most important election since statehood. And I was like, oh, that sounds a little bit exaggerated. And then I started thinking about all the things that we're deciding, and it's certainly up there because in part because of the oil tax referendum that happened in August. If Parnell is reelected, it'll say something important about that referendum, and about whether or not we're an ownership state. Are we an ownership state going into the future? If we are, then I think this election really matters. And so the gubernatorial election in particular is very, very important. There's also control of the state house and state senate, the chance we could have a bipartisan coalition again, and that's going to take a lot of young people getting out and voting. And then of course we have Mark Begas' election and my own election, the federal delegation. And this is the most expensive election in Alaskan history because of all the money, the outside money that's come in that Senate race. So it's going to say something very important about the state and about our electoral system and about the oil tax referendum based on how Tuesday turns out.
And so what are the biggest issues you want to focus on in the state and in the country as a whole if you were to be elected?
I think the primary challenge for Alaska going forward is diversifying our economy and finding where the new jobs of the future are going to come from. Because oil and gas is definitely going to be an important part of our economy. It's going to be our largest source of tax revenue for the foreseeable future. And I very much support continuing to develop oil and gas. And certainly building a gas line is something that could change the economy for the whole state. But in addition to that, we have to be looking for new tourism opportunities, sustainable fisheries, high tech, investing in human capital, because there probably aren't going to be those jobs there forever. And we need to find new sources of jobs for our children and grandchildren here in this state. And we saw with the oil tax referendum and other things that right now we are so dependent for our resources, for our jobs, for our revenue from that one industry. And it's just not it's not very healthy for any state to be that dependent on one industry. So we have to work to diversify. And that's going to be a local, state, and federal effort.